Welcome to Unspoken Affairs. In today's video, I want to share a story that has lived inside me for far too long. It's not the kind of story you expect to tell about yourself. It isn't loud or dramatic in the way some betrayals are. Isn't born out of anger or vengeance. It began in silence, the kind of silence that seeps into your home, into your marriage, into your soul. Until one day you realize you're not living together anymore. You're simply existing side by side. And when that silence becomes unbearable, sometimes the smallest glance, the softest word, or the presence of someone who sees you can feel like a storm. This is my story, and though it feels like a confession, it is also the truth of what happened. The night a familiar face reminded me I was still alive. The memory begins in the laundry room. He was crouched in front of the dryer, his shirt stretched across his back, the steady hum of the machine filling the space. It should have been the most ordinary sight in the world. Friend of my husband's, someone I had known for years, simply helping with a broken vent. But the moment I saw him like that, I froze. The basket in my hands suddenly felt too heavy, my throat too tight, my heart beating louder than the machine itself. His name was Jake. Jake wasn't new to my life. He had been there all along, though always in the background. He went to college with my husband, Brian, and over the years he became one of those friends who slipped seamlessly into family gatherings. I'd seen him laugh around the grill at summer barbecues, seen him pass the football on crisp autumn weekends, seen him carrying boxes during moves, helping with the yard, fixing gutters before the winter set in. He was dependable, kind, always ready to lend a hand. But he was never personal, never someone I looked at twice. Not until that night, the storm outside was relentless. Rain battered the windows, the kind of rain that looks like it will never stop. Thunder rattled the frames and lightning lit up the sky with white streaks. Its power flickered, then died, leaving the house in semi-darkness. Jake had come earlier that afternoon to fix the vent in the laundry room, and when the storm worsened, Brian suggested he stay over rather than risk driving on the soaked roads. It was meant to be a simple, practical decision. It's just one night. Just a friend avoiding danger on the road. But nothing about what followed was simple. When Jake walked into the laundry room carrying a stack of towels, he asked if I needed help with the basket I was holding. I told him no, but he didn't leave. He lingered, quiet, present, and in that quiet, felt something I hadn't felt in years. You see, Brian and I had been married for 12 years. The first 10, we lived what I would have called a good marriage. We had our routines, our rituals, our small disagreements, and our reconciliations. But somewhere in the last 2 years, something shifted. It didn't break suddenly. It wasn't a fight that ended everything. It was quieter than that, slower, almost invisible as it was happening. We stopped talking the way we used to. Conversations became about bills, about errands, about work schedules and grocery lists. We didn't fight, but we didn't laugh much either. We coexisted. And in that quiet coexisting, I started to feel invisible at night. I would lie beside him, listening to him breathe, scrolling through his phone or already half asleep, and I felt lonelier than I had when I was single. It was a loneliness that didn't come from being physically alone, but from being unseen, from being next to someone who no longer really noticed you. So when Jake's fingers brushed against the back of my shirt that night, I didn't move away. I should have. Every part of me knew the right thing would have been to step aside, to pretend nothing happened. But instead, I leaned back just slightly, enough for the edge of the dryer to support me, enough for the hum of the machine to vibrate through my skin. He didn't force anything. He didn't rush. His hand hovered, waiting, like he was asking a question without words. And I answered without words. A nod so small it could have been missed, but he didn't miss it. He leaned in, and his lips touched mine. It wasn't urgent. It wasn't reckless. It was slow, deliberate, almost searching. Like he had been waiting for a moment like this, just as I had, without ever realizing it. And when his forehead rested against mine, I realized with startling clarity I hadn't felt seen, touched, or truly alive in years. When he finally pulled away, he didn't say anything. Neither did I. He left the door half open as he walked out, and I sat there on the edge of the dryer, heart racing, sock half off, trying to understand whether I had just made the worst decision of my life or the most honest one. The next morning, Jake was gone. His truck wasn't in the driveway, his boots weren't by the door. But his coffee mug sat on the counter half full, a spoon resting inside as though he meant to stir it, but never did. Brian didn't notice. He didn't ask why Jake had left. So early, he didn't notice that I forgot to cook the eggs. He sat there with his phone, scrolling, sipping coffee, lost in his own world. And I realized then how easy it was for things to go unseen. Later that morning, stood under the shower, water rushing hot over my shoulders. And my fingers drifted to the place on my ribs where Jake's hand had paused the night before. He had traced the faint scar along my side, a scar I hadn't thought about in years. A scar Brian never noticed, or if he had, never asked about. But Jake saw it. He noticed. And somehow, that mattered more than anything. The truth is, that night in the laundry room wasn't the beginning. Looking back, the slope began weeks before. I remember watching him through the kitchen window as he fixed a broken fence post in the backyard. He wasn't doing it for attention. He wasn't performing. He was simply focused, moving with quiet purpose, sweat glistening on his forehead under the summer sun. And I remember thinking, he isn't pretending to help. It's just helping. That was the moment something inside me shifted. So subtly, I didn't recognize it at the time. 2 weeks after the storm, Jake came by again to fix the bike rack in the garage. I brought him a soda, and when our hands touched as I passed it to him, the look in his eyes said everything. We didn't speak about it, but we both knew. When I mentioned a box inside that I needed help carrying, and he followed me into the house, I already understood what was going to happen. The door clicked shut behind us, and the silence was replaced with closeness. It was faster this time, less searching, more certain. Neither of us spoke. Neither of us needed to. It was as though the question had already been answered the night of the storm. When it was over, we didn't linger. We adjusted our clothes, avoided each other's eyes, and he left. That night, I sat on the edge of the bed next to Brian. He didn't look at me. He didn't reach for me. He complained about a client, scrolled through his emails, and eventually turned his back to sleep. And I realized something terrifying. I didn't feel guilty. Not in the way I thought I should. It felt empty, hollow. Like the only part of me that was alive was the echo of being seen. But being touched, like I mattered. It happened one more time after that. Quick, fleeting, in the pantry of all places. I don't even remember what excuse we had to be in there at the same time. But his hand brushed mine, and suddenly I was pressed against the shelves. The smell of cinnamon and flour all around us. He didn't speak, and neither did I. The moment was short, almost desperate, and then it was gone. After that, it ended. There was no argument, no decision. Jake simply stopped coming by. The bike rack stayed loose. The gutter sagged again. The light in the hallway went unreplaced. He was gone, and I never reached out. But his mug stayed in the cabinet. Every time I put away the dishes, I saw it, a quiet reminder of a moment that had changed everything. Not because of what we did, but because of what it revealed. I had been living unseen. That what I craved wasn't Jake. Not really. It was the feeling of being alive, of being noticed, of being worth someone's attention. Some nights, when the silence in the house feels heavier than usual, I press my hand to the top of the dryer, remembering that night. Not the kiss, not the physical closeness, but the feeling of being recognized. And sometimes I wonder, is that worse than the betrayal itself? It's because what I wanted wasn't him. Was to feel alive again, and for a brief, fleeting moment, I did.